but 50% of women are super chromads. So it's like you would think that women just kind of dominate this hierarchy. And I wonder if that's going to get fleshed out more, if they're going to be higher in the
Yeah.
hierarchy, or if it's still going to favor men, just kind of stereotypically almost. Or
So,
hey everyone, my name's Nick.
and I'm Ray. Yes, I'm back. I know it's been a long 2 months, but got busy with life, so I had to take a break. Today, we are going to be reviewing the Lightbringer series, Book 1, The Black Prism. Nick hasn't read the Lightbringer series yet. I've already read them all the way through, and we're going to go over it today, and it's one of my favorite series, so I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it as a whole so far, just for book 1.
I keep wanting to say I was pleasantly surprised, but I had no expectations because I've never read the book. I've never really heard anything about the book except for you kind of saying, hey, the magic system's great. And it was a really fun read. Some of the writing was pretty dang cringe to me.
Yeah.
And I had to keep reminding myself, all right, we're reading from the point of view of a 15-year-old boy, because some of it was a little tough. It's like romance novel type stuff, and it was a little tough for my taste.
Yeah, it's I'll say this. So you have people like Patrick Rothfuss, authors like Patrick Rothfuss, right? Who, when they write their books, are very slow, meticulous about it, and the paragraphs, the sentences, everything just flows so well in and of itself. It's an incredibly well written book. Then you have people like Brandon Sanderson who churn out books, right? Great world building, churns them out. The words aren't as great, but it's a great world. You got people like Brent. This series is incredibly entertaining. It's one of my favorite books. It's just incredibly entertaining. It has great world building, but not all of it. You will come to see there are some holes, but for the most part, it's really good. Same with the character writing. Most of it's pretty good. There's a lot of character development, strong character development, but there's going to be moments where you're like, okay, I don't know about that one. But the experience as a whole, subjectively, I think is what really makes these books shine. I think he built a really, really fun and entertaining world for us to partake in.
Yeah, I would agree with that. As for world building, I think the strongest point in this book is probably the magic system, or the magic system was the most fun, and it was the most in-depth part of the book. The one moment that I was like, okay, this is really silly, is whenever I'll call him by his main name. Okay, there's going to be spoilers, right? This is a complete spoiler review.
It's not really a spoiler. It's pretty fucking obvious right off the bat.
It is, and I'll get into it really quick because that was one issue that I had as well. But I thought it was super silly when Dazen, the Black Prism, is like in his harness, just kind of like pouring out liquid yellow stuff. It was like a really silly visual to think of. But like, it's not very what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't very cool. It seemed kind of lame. Like just him kind of slouched over in a harness pouring out yellow stuff.
The strongest dude could tear down armies. He's building a wall in a fucking safety harness.
Yeah it was really just puking up yellow stuff. It was funny. But overall, it was really interesting. It was super cool seeing Kip, this really new
fat guy,
really new chubby boy, like just totally going ape shit on these other people and killing like literally hundreds of just normal soldiers, kind of showing you how overpowered the drafters are. But they have a very hard lock where it's like, okay, they're really overpowered, but they're gonna die or go crazy.
There's a solid repercussion.
Yes.
If you draft too much too quick, you'll burn yourself out essentially.
So that was really cool. It was really fun. I enjoyed that, the magic system as it's explained so far.
That is my favorite thing about the series as a whole, the magic system. You and I have talked offline about this before. It was one of the points I tried to sell you on this book a long time ago before we even started this channel. And I just think it's an ingenious magic system to come up with the light, the spectrum of light, and plus or minus a little bit more to be used as a base for magic. And what would the rules apply to it? How would you give it a counter. And I think Brent Weeks does a wonderful job making this the case. It gets better throughout the series too. It explains in more detail how it works. Just as a whole, it's a fucking beautiful system. The one thing I have an issue with this book, and this is with all the books for me, Liv sucks. Liv sucks. Karis is great. Liv sucks.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I didn't really mind it though, because I didn't find her to be she wasn't really a main character to me. She's definitely a character that you get a significant amount of point of view from.
Yeah.
But she didn't feel like a Gavin. Or I guess a Dazen. She didn't feel like a Kip. She didn't feel like a Karis. You know, she just wasn't really a main character to me. And if I may say, in reference before we move past the magic system, I think it's really cool too that this is, I mean, the base idea of it is not unique, right? Everything has, water, earth, air, fire, you know, so the base of it where it's like this colored magic system isn't very unique, but the way he changes it and makes it like, you know, you have ultraviolets, you have the is it super red?
Subred.
Subred, thank you.
Which is infrared.
It's cool how it's a little bit more and it's a little bit different. So I think he did a fantastic job with that.
Yeah, it's like a class system that you know, if you're like a green drafter, right, you're gonna, you know, have certain personality traits and do certain things, right? You can't use yellow to build unless you're a super chromat like Dazen is, right? So like there's a lot of cool restrictions and niche uses for each color as well. You know, it's not just all of them can make a fireball. You know, there are designs and strategies used for each one.
I wonder if it's going to, and I don't know, you obviously will know whenever I say it. I wonder if he's going to expand on the fact the amount of colors that you can draft is how your hierarchy is. But 50% of women are super chromats. So it's like you would think that women just kind of dominate this hierarchy, and I wonder if that's going to get fleshed out more, if they're going to be higher in the hierarchy, or if it's still going to favor men, just kind of stereotypically almost.
So it fleshes it out in the sense that it explains what impact being a super chromat has for women or men. I wouldn't say super chromaticism really helps.
Okay, so it's
unless you're a full spectrum polychrome, in which case, being a super chromat's going to help you draft, right? Like Dazen, he wouldn't be able to have built that Brightwater wall without being a super chromat, right? And also, nobody else would have been able to build that wall unless they were him, because he can split light, right?
Right.
That's what makes him special. He can split light. So the irises, right, rings breaking and you becoming a white don't apply to him, because he's able to just split the component colors like that. He's just overpowered, straight up. Yeah. He's overpowered. But he lost, and that's what I love about it.
It is cool to have an overpowered character that is like a main character and still is checked in a way. Because, he's overpowered, but when we're in the final battle and you're up against an army of 100,000 with hundreds of other drafters, it's like you're gonna lose. You can't win them all. So that was really cool too.
It's a nice contrast too to Kip, right? Our two main characters, really, right? Dazen and Kip. It's a nice contrast because you have that story, you know, like in Wheel of Time, Rand is becoming to learn, right? But he starts off shitty. So you have that in your main character, but then you also have the overpowered main character. It's a really nice contrast to have throughout the series, and I think it really lends well to the believability factor of them losing battles and like it actually being a war, because you have this dude who built a wall in like a day, right? Drafted white, right?
Yep.
He can essentially can do anything, and he loses, and there's like real ramifications about it. Superman didn't save the day.
Yeah, it was cool to see. He is overpowered, but he overestimated his abilities too. He's like, okay, let me build this entire, I don't know how many leagues, you know how big the wall actually was, but he tried to build an entire fortifying wall around a city in like 5 days, and he just couldn't do it. He almost finished it, but he's still overestimated what he thought he could do, and he because he didn't finish it, they lost. And so that was really cool.
Call him Donald Trump.
Another thing that I really liked about the author, I will say, Brent Weeks, right? What an author does for us is try to make implausible things happen, but it makes it like not too jarring. So in the first chapter, we get Kip. Kip is sneaking into a camp. He just so happens to meet this sorcerer that tells him, hey, there's a prophecy about you. I overheard it, but it was all believable.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, I didn't feel like, oh, that would never happen. And then just so happens that Dazen, right? I'm going to call them by their real names. Okay. It just so happens that Dazen also goes to the same place with Kip, who's also like one of two people that survived his entire city getting massacred. Yeah. And then this is actually his son. Like, but I didn't feel like it wasn't believable. Yeah. And I think kudos to Brent Weeks for doing that. He did a fantastic job in making the unbelievable believable.
I think the biggest strength in his writing is that, right? I mean, all of this is unbelievable, but it all makes sense in the story itself. Like, you have a crazy white who, just meets Kip, and he's like, yo, let me go. There's a prophecy about you, homie. Like, let me go. I'm kidding. There's not, but there actually is. Like, I'm fucking crazy, dude. Yeah. What are you going to believe, right? And, like, those people exist in the world. But, yeah, it's believable. And then even his escape is believable because we find out who he is. He's Gavin's kid, and Gavin was supposed to be the Prism. So the fact that he's got that bloodline, yeah, he's going to be naturally strong, probably, you know. But yeah, it's a phenomenal series, and I think the first book is a great introduction to it. It gets better from here.
One thing that I didn't care for, the way that Gavin and Dazen, their places were revealed, because it was pretty obvious in the beginning, and I feel like Brent Weeks knew this. And to throw you off that trail, he was like, whenever he gave that scene where the prisoner was calling himself Dazen, I was like, wait, why would... Oh, so they're not swapped, because if they were, I was thinking like, oh, this is like a twin brother thing. The other one actually did live. That's why he's like saying in his own head, oh, this can't be my son, but he is my son. It was just, there was a lot of stuff that was leading you to believe this is the other brother. But then whenever we see the prisoner, at least for me, when I saw him and he's calling himself Dazen, I was like, oh, I'm wrong. It really is just Dazen and Gavin. Yeah. That felt kind of disingenuous to me. I didn't like that. It's like, you didn't need to show the prisoner this early, and he didn't need to call himself Dazen.
So there's a reason that I can't get into that also does get slightly, almost feels like retconned a little bit, but not really. Yeah. That, for me, throughout the series is a point of contention. I get what it's trying to do, and I like what it's trying to do. I just think it wasn't fully planned out when the author wrote these books. So that is one critique I would give it.
That's what it felt like. It felt like he was just trying to give us a twist for twist's sake, but it felt like when he wrote it originally, he was like, ooh, this is too obvious. I need to do something to make it a little less obvious. Yeah. But it felt like a lie.
All in all, I love this series. I love this book. It's refreshing to have a main character that's not 6'4", built like an Ailman, fucking huge. No, he's some fat kid from the country, man. I mean, sure, he's got a solid base, but he's a chubby 15-year-old that hasn't grown into himself yet. And it's nice to have that as a starting point. And the complaining's not really there. Like, it's there as it would be for a teenager, but he's getting shit done.
Yeah, and I mean, you see, he had a very difficult upbringing with a drug-addicted, abusive mother. Yeah. And, he's using that where it's like the pressure of it has created a diamond. Yeah. And luckily for him, he didn't break under it where he thought he would, and he's now blossoming into something better and more, and that's really cool to see. So can I give you my predictions really quick?
Yeah, let's hear your predictions.
So whenever I was reading out, or whenever I got to the end, I was just thinking of this. So my thoughts at the end of book 1, Karis is Kip's mom, which would still make him a product of at least unwanted sexual contact, but by today's standards, 100% he's a product of rape, right? Either way. Especially because of the note that he got at the end there. But I think Karis is Kip's mom, and that Kip's mom in the village was just a plant, a long-term plant by this Omni Prince. And she's been playing the long game and to be able to get him to finally, she knew, oh, he's going to get in contact with Gavin at some point.
I want you to remember that prediction because you saying that, you don't understand the ramifications. But like, we'll talk about it on book 4 when we find out some information. Yeah, when we find out some information, we'll bring that one back up. But it's really funny.
So that was my prediction. I know I don't have a prediction for how the Gavin Dazen thing is gonna happen. I don't have a prediction on Dazen's actual position. Yeah. But I was just thinking of Kip at the end there when he got that note, and I was like, oh yeah, she's a plant. I enjoyed this book overall. I think it was really fun. There were a couple of issues, but it was great.
Yeah. For all you first time readers, give your predictions down below. For anybody who's finished the series, don't say shit. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. Please. Don't do that. Yeah, it's good to be back. We'll be reviewing some more books. And, let us know if you want us to review anything specifically. I can't read too good, but, we can get it done. So, with that, Ray, out.
Thanks for watching. Hey, Nick here. If you enjoyed this video, please gently caress that like button for us.
And Ray, thanks for watching. It was a blast. Make sure to hit that subscribe if you want to stay up to date with what we're doing, what me and him are doing. There. Me and him, Nick and Ray. Subscribe.